All right, we are live. Hey,
Good
Julian, how's it
morning.
going?
I'm very good. It's day 423 of reInvent.
It's day 4.
Oh, is it?
Four.
It's 4. Is that a 4?
Right,
Is that
that
a
is
4?
a 4. Matthew, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. Really happy to be here.
We're happy you're here.
Excited.
Matthew Napoli, one of our amazing serverless heroes
That's
from
right.
Lyon. And this is your first time in Vegas, isn't
This
it?
is my first time here.
So is it smaller than you expected?
It's much bigger than expected. Much
Particularly the walking.
bigger. Yes.
I didn't realize this was your first time.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
This is your first time to the States, though, is it?
Now I've been to Portland before, and it's a
Oh.
bit different from Vegas.
Okay,
from
yes,
what I
it
can
is.
tell, Yes.
It's always interesting. People who have never been here before, and Vegas is the first experience. They're like, is all America this way? It's like, no.
But I'm sure you spend most of your time in Paris because that feels like home, or avoiding it completely.
Actually, I spent a lot of time in Italy, and I loved.
Ah, excellent,
So, yeah.
excellent. There we go. You're in the right place. Yeah.
All right, so we are in mass today. Are we understandable? Can y'all hear us? Okay. Our sound team, as always, is doing a nice job.
Thank you very much.
Matthew Coulter will be joining us in a little bit. He is on a sprint over from the live stage in Werner Vogel's keynote, so that's very impressive. We're proud of him.
Yeah, he's had to tell Werner that he needs to stop talking to
Yeah,
Werner to come
yeah.
here because his
Werner-
priorities. Yeah.
Stop talking, and we want to dig in with you, Matt. First of all, reInvent. It's been 4 days of reInvent. What has been the best part so far?
Well, the announcements, I love them, but
Okay, all right.
talking with people, meeting with them, it's amazing.
Okay. What?
Met so many interesting people.
Oh yeah. Well, the hallway track is
Yes.
about the best track
Yeah.
there is here.
Yeah.
And as promised, did you get a hug from me?
Not yet.
Okay, you're gonna get a hug. I
Nice.
hugged Ben Kehoe sitting over here. He got a hug from me. I am a hugger, and I think I've scared quite a few people. So you will get a hug from me before you leave. But yeah, it's been great to be in person. Great, Julian. You've got several hugs from me. So you,
I'm
More
several
than
hugs
one.
a day.
yeah. You're
Perfect,
like
perfect.
on set, Eric. So okay. So tell us. You said the announcements were your favorite. What was your favorite? I'll give you a favorite top 3 announcements.
Yeah. Lots of things around the SQS.
Okay.
Okay.
SQS and Lambda, I love that pattern.
Okay.
Works really well. And
What do you use it for? What's your sort of big pattern or use case
any
that you use it for?
asynchronous processing job.
Okay.
Anything that you don't want to do when you have an API and you don't want to do that synchronously in the API response, you offload that to the backend, to the background, and it's perfect.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So partial batch responses.
Oh,
are
yeah.
doing
Partial-
batch is better. I think this is amazing. This is a bit old news because this is last week already.
Well, okay. Yeah, a week old is
old
that's
is
true.
really
Here,
old,
that's
so-
that's
yeah.
old news. Yeah.
Right.
Why is that? Why do you like that?
I like that because before that, dealing with batches in SQS was a bit, like, maybe I should explain how this works?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a Lambda function that handles batches of messages from SQS, and you have 10 messages, you have 5 jobs processed successfully and 1 that fails. Well, before, the whole batch was failed and the 5 successful messages were retried. Now with the partial batch response, I think that's the correct name, you can actually mark some messages as successfully processed and some as failed, and only the failed messages will be retried. And of course, I love that because then finally makes batch processing much robust.
Yeah, more robust. And it's going to be cheaper because your Lambda
Oh, yeah.
function's not processing the same thing
Yeah.
multiple times. Yes. I mean, under the hood, the cool thing is we actually maintain a fleet of pollers that are polling SQS. And being able to handle those batch things. And the other one I know you're going to talk about is the event filtering as well.
Sorry, there.
Event filtering.
Oh yeah, the filtering. Yes. Oh, actually, I have a question about that because I see how it
You
can
can
be
try.
used with SQS,
Yeah.
but I was curious about a scenario with DynamoDB and streams. So here is my question. Let's say I have a table with blog posts and comments, and so far, whenever a comment is added, I want to update the blog post items to update the list of comments in that blog post. So I have a trigger. Whenever a comment item is added, I update the blog post in my Lambda function. But before that, I was not able to filter out, and let's say trigger the Lambda function only when comments were inserted in the table. I have to check whether it's a new blog post or a new comment. So now with filters, I can filter the event and only trigger that for comments. Is that correct?
I think so, if I'm understanding what you're asking correctly. But because you're only going to be able to have, you can't do sort of conditional logic within the Lambda function as something streams, or conditional logic within the polar filtering. So everything is going to arrive from DynamoDB, and you're going to be able to do the filtering over there, and then only send it to the Lambda function. But it's not as though you're going to be able to say, I'm going to have two filters. One Lambda function is going to grab that, and another Lambda function is going to grab that, because it's happening all at the event source.
Right.
Yeah, I think your use case sounds plausible, but a big caveat there: I haven't tried it, seen it's out this week.
That's why I'm really eager to try that.
But yeah, so in a basic sense, and I agree with Julian, and just kind of go on that. It used to be, hey, when something was updated, it used to be just everything coming out of stream invoke the Lambda, right? And in the Lambda, we would say, was that an update? Was that a create? Was that a delete? So on and so forth. Now you could do that, and right, you're not going to be able to send, you're not going to be able to route based on that, but you can filter based on that. Say just updates, just creates, things like that. So
Okay, perfect. Sounds really good.
all right. Anything else that you just like, whoa, that's the coolest?
The redrive feature as well. I mean, I know it's SQS and SQS,
Okay,
but the
no,
redrive feature,
Okay.
this is super cool. Being able to retry failed messages from the dead letter queue. Those messages were there, and to retry them, you have to write a script or run commands manually, and now you can just push a button in the console and have those messages retried. I think this is really great.
So I heard someone stopped me in the session the other day in the hallway truck and said, the theme I'm seeing from Amazon is making it easier for developers. We're releasing new features, things like that, but it seems like now they're coming back and trying to, a rapid impact. Would you like that, Julian? Rapid impact to help the developers do things easier. And one of that is saying, rather than constantly writing code to handle errors, to handle retry, to handle things like that, the services are starting to offload that. We see it in event bridge. We see it in
Step functions. Yeah.
Step functions. Thank you. Wasn't coming to me. I've heard of step functions.
Have you?
Yes. We see it in SQS. We see it in this read. So rather than writing code, we just set configuration. And that's a theme that I've been going with. Is I absolutely believe in configuration over code. My theory is if all else fails, then code, right? So
that's not just because it's your code.
Right. No, well,
Any
a good
code.
chance of it is. But yes.
Mine too. I have the same thing.
Yeah, I've always said the most brittle part of an application is Eric Johnson's code. So developer is in my title, but yeah. So.
Well, I do a talk at reInvent, and it's actually being repeated this afternoon. Best practices of advanced serverless developers, and I used the amazing serverless heroes we have to gather some tips and tricks, which I've also put in it. But literally, a whole section of that talk is configuration over code. Being service full and using the native service integrations, and it's not just about connecting to APIs, but using retries and failure modes and error handling built into the services natively. So yeah, big fan of that.
Yeah. Well, we could go on giving examples. I really like the idea of getting that code out. I'm not anti-Lambda. I'm not anti-code. I'm very pro right tool for the right job.
Yeah.
And the Lambda is for business logic. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and this is where we can see as well, like use cases on AWS are being more mature, like with SQS and all these features around dealing with errors and all of that. It's those are details, but they help so much, and then they make the solution much more mature again. Like it's don't have to fill in the blank in the details with code and tooling.
And the interesting thing, one of the services that this was last year, I think, Destinations last year?
2019.
2019, was it? That's another interesting one too, because then we come down to, if we do need to code, right, for this retry, just on asynchronous Lambda functions, we need to be able to, rather than repeating that in every Lambda that's doing that, you could farm that off to central locations. Here's a destination. If it failed, handle it, or go to a DLQ or something like that. So again, even when we can't in the service handle that, we're offering some alternatives.
I mean, and that's even an improvement on DLQs, because you can use DLQs for Lambda. Event Destinations allows you to have more information that you can send on failure notification. And also Destinations is cool because you can also send it for successful notifications. That's the thing that people sometimes forget about when they think of Destinations as a replacement for DLQs. but it's got more. If the Lambda function has been successful and you want to then take an action, you can do that. So yeah, anything else, even if it's not serverless, obviously we're on serverless office hours, but I mean, Amazon and AWS is pretty big. We've got a few services. Anything that's piqued your interest?
One that I really like related to serverless is how we can bridge S3 events into EventBridge. And I think this rates as well.
I was going to bring that up if you didn't. Go ahead.
I love this one because like with S3, we can have events on object creation, updates, deletions, and trigger Lambda functions on that process. I don't know, newly uploaded videos, images, interesting things. And it works well, but having all those events now go through EventBridge, I love how EventBridge is the central place for events.
Yes.
And it's much simpler. There's one concept, EventBridge and events in there. And I love that. It makes it much more easier to grasp just one place, all events in there.
More and more I'm seeing this idea of that central. Here's the bus, okay? Everybody gets on the bus, and then we filter as we need it. And so it's kind of going down the middle, and then we just, throw different things out by the filter. I built a translation app a while back that had to do some different things. It was take a series of, or take a string and convert it to a series of cultures, right? German, French, whatever. And then each one of those translations were then converted to audio using Poly and saved in an S3 bucket, and then the keys were put into DynamoDB. And what I was able to do, I built out the pipe, and okay, I'm a translation, filter and translation, this Lambda function handled it, right? And then very easily that opened up a pattern that said, okay, now I want to do, let's say, comprehend. So I just attach another Lambda function to the event bridge through a rule and say, if it's been or when it comes in, run a comprehension on that as well. So it's just attaching more to that. The other option, I've also built it in step functions. I mean, that's different ways. But if you don't need that specific orchestration, you just need it to happen going down the pipe, that's a great pattern.
Yeah, and I love the part about EventBridge. We've got a demo here running at reInvent called Serverless Espresso, which is a coffee ordering management system, and it's heavily use case of step functions for orchestration, EventBridge for choreography, and of course there are going to be Lambda functions in there. Some direct integrations via the SDK.
And really good coffee.
Yeah, really good coffee. I'm glad you say that.
I had a chance to try that.
Well, there we go. So that's we got to trust sort of some European people with the coffee, and I had some Italians there on the first day, slightly nervous what they were going to say, and one guy was sort of caging his bets, and he said, well, it's better than Starbucks. And then the other guy was like, turned around to his colleague and said, no, it's much better. This is really good coffee. So I was like, on day one, we got good coffee.
Real quick, I'm going to answer a question. We have a question on the stream. Said, hey, when are we going to get DynamoDB streams to EventBridge? That's a great question. And I don't have an answer for you right now, but that is feedback I'll take to the team.
Yep.
That's an interesting idea to be able to just take events off DynamoDB stream, pump them into EventBridge, and go crazy.
And in fact, I hope we do the other way around as well, that you can push things from EventBridge directly to DynamoDB. That would also be super cool.
Yep.
Interesting.
Go ahead, Matt.
Interesting. I have the idea.
Why not? What do you think?
Yeah.
With the SDK integrations with step functions, I hope someone comes up with a good idea to do that for EventBridge.
Yeah, it makes sense. It also reminds me a cool feature of EventBridge where you can actually send events to an HTTP API.
Yeah,
API
destination.
Lambda function.
Yep.
So now you can send S3 events straight to let's say a legacy API or a third-party API without even writing a single line of code. Just realized that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So one of the interesting things, and this is why I was going to bring it up. Previously you could do S3 to EventBridge, but you had to go through CloudTrail, right? And as I talk to folks, especially when you're looking at like in a SAM template, in SAM templates you always had to, it has to be the bucket in that SAM template that's invoking that because of the way it's configured. This opens it up to say, no more am I going to attach an S3 event to the Lambda function as the event source. I'm going to attach an EventBridge rule and know that that's come through. So now I can do any bucket without it having to be in there. Additionally, I can do multiple buckets or multiple buckets, yes, but multiple Lambda functions being triggered by the same bucket, all without piping CloudTrail in there. So it's great. Hey, I do see that Matt Coulter is with us. Matt, come on in. We got you a chair. Hey, let's give Matt a round of applause. All right. Welcome, Matt.
Celebrity, how you doing?
Yeah, a little bit of a celebrity. Did you bring the trophy?
I couldn't bring the trophy.
Okay, well, all right. Oh, they took it away from you?
So they're going to post it back because it's,
Okay, all right.
it's this huge big glass thing. And
You
it's
just
about
put
a
that
ton weight.
closer to your. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta get it close.
So it's a ton weight. It's this huge big glass thing. And there's no way I was getting it back in my suitcase. There's just no way.
You're not going to go through security at Las Vegas airport in your hand luggage and then be like, what is this?
Here's what I think. I think you made Werner mad, and he took it back.
No, he signed it.
Oh, did wow, he signed it. Well, hey,
Yeah.
First to tell you, I'm sure I'm not the first. You did a great job in the stream, and it was just fantastic. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and a great testament to Liberty IT and your whole team. I visited you guys about 2 years ago, and the amazing stuff you've been doing with serverless and development and everything. And I mean, that was just 2 years ago. And since then, the work on the CDK, and yeah, you personally on stage, you were radiant and excited, and it was infectious. You got the biggest cheer as everybody walked of everyone who walked in. So yeah, congratulations.
Right.
It was a
Thank you.
great show.
And shout out to all the heroes who put in. They were sitting right at the front right. And we have this WhatsApp group and beforehand where we're talking and they're like, you better wave because we're going to shout as soon as you walk on. And they did.
That's right. You got a standing ovation, dude. Yeah, it was very cool.
So how did that all happen? How did you phone up Werner one day and just said, Werner, can I talk about CDK, or how does that
Yeah.
work?
So it was just, I just dropped him a text. No.
As you do.
No, I mean the email comes through. Would you consider speaking in the keynote? And then you're like, I'll play it all cool. I mean, maybe.
Yeah. Let me check my calendar.
I'll see if I'm free that day. I don't know what I'm doing, but no, of course you're obviously going to say yes. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That was really cool. Well, for both of you, if you're not familiar with the Heroes program, this isn't an easy group to get into. It's not just you wear the right shirt, stuff like that. They produce a lot of content. They do a lot of teaching. They produce a lot of stuff. Matt, some of the stuff you did with some of the training stuff that you've done. Matt, obviously the CDK stuff. And so these are two very sharp gentlemen who have done a lot to be on the team. And I want to thank you. I know that our team loves our serverless heroes.
And it's not just about creating code and examples. There's a huge big community
That's right.
engagement part of it as well. And the people who run AWS user groups and other kind of user groups and CDK day and everything. So yeah, it's a great testament. It's not easy to do. Eric and I have even been involved in doing some hero, looking at some of the heroes and possible new heroes as well, and valuations. And the bar is high, definitely.
Yeah, it is. There's water in front of each of you if you'd like some. You can only take your mask off to drink your water, and the mask goes back on. These are the rules. So yeah, we're staying safe, staying healthy.
Eric's been telling me all week that he's hoping that there's going to be CDK days all around the world because he wants to go and travel and see some of them.
That's right. That's right. Because I was involved. Go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say I've been promising you for about 2 years. We're going to do one in Japan.
That's right. So are you announcing it?
Well, if people want it,
Nothing like on the spot. Okay, you heard it there, folks. Right there.
can't take it back.
Yeah. So if you are interested in having a CDK day or an IAC day, we have talked about that, infrastructure as code day, then let us know. If you're interested in having one in Tokyo, if you're interested in one having in, Mesa, Arizona, let us know. So real quick, I want to jump back to Matthew. I want to hear some of the latest work you've been doing.
Right. So lately, I've been working with the Serverless Framework team on version 3 of Serverless
I
Framework.
didn't realize
Yeah.
that. Okay. Very cool.
Really exciting stuff. We want to improve developer experience a lot and make serverless accessible to more developers. Serverless is awesome. It works so well, but there are still some details that can be improved to make it more accessible and a better experience every day. So Serverless Framework will be around that.
Okay.
New features in the framework and a new design of the CLI tool.
Are you able, and I know that there's NDA and secrecy, things like that, are you able to talk about anything you're working on? You could say no.
You mean in Serverless Framework? Yeah. So more specifically, we worked on the CLI interactions in the framework. So you have the CLI to deploy applications. You have serverless.yaml file, serverless deploy as a command, and then you get a really nice interactive approach. Basically working on making the thing more accessible, better experience. We're working on a new feature as well to let developer change the configuration of the application deployed based on the stage.
All right.
So if you have a staging application, a dev application, and a prod stage, you can have the production environment with different settings as the staging environment. So this is something that it was already possible, but with workarounds, and we're trying to make that first class experience in the framework.
Nice. So
We have
you're
big plans as well, but those are
those. Tell us everything. No, just kidding. So we're sitting right here. Sam and Sam. I'm not gonna. Maybe Sam. Yeah.
No,
Sam. Yeah.
more Sam.
We
Yeah.
have serverless framework, and then the other one. And that's CDK. That's right. We do get along, and here's the message. Right. Use a framework. That's what we get a lot.
That's a good one,
I've
yes.
told the story before. I'll tell it real quick again. Alex Debris, who used to work for Serverless Framework, he and I were sitting together. We were sitting across from a gentleman, said, I'm building a serverless, really cool app he's building. I said, oh, but of course, we were elbowing each other. All right, tell us which framework you're using. His or mine. He goes, oh, no, I hand roll it all. And it was just like, oh, you're losing so much time in development. So use a framework. That's the sermon for today. So,
Completely agree with that.
Yeah.
And we're entirely sort of open on people using other kind of tools. And this is the funny thing: people think we work for AWS. Oh, we want to be using the CDK or SAM. But if you're using Serverless Framework or Architect or Chalice or Terraform or any of these infrastructure as code tools, like, for us that's like whatever you're going to do, whatever's going to be the right tool for your job. But yeah. Infrastructure as code is giving you massive superpowers, and it's not just the obvious things of standing up environments. It's CI/CD pipelines. It massively helps with security because you can define your security in your template. You can scan that, do that out multiple stages, multiple environments, just like what you're talking about over here. So people think of infrastructure as code as just I can use this X lines of CDK or SAM or the serverless framework, but it's what that then enables so many more additional things. That's the true power of it, rather than just the actual templating stuff.
That's right. Matt, what are you working on right now?
So right now, I mean, the mission's always the same. I'm trying to empower and enable the developers in Liberty Mutual to rapidly deliver business value in a well-architected way. And what I've noticed is I've seen now that Amplify has an export capability in the CDK.
That's right.
We can now combine Amplify and CDK and SAM together, all the holy trinity of the AWS tools all together. Yeah. So it isn't use one framework, it's use whatever number of frameworks you can combine to get the job done quickly. And yeah,
I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I know with SAM we did obviously the CDK support, and not all of SAM Accelerate is there yet, but it will be as we start rolling those in. And we even, dare I say it, we've even put out a poll to see who would be interested in SAM CLI for Terraform.
Yep.
Right. So again, it goes back to that enabling the developers to get it done faster. So yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So what do you do after a keynote, Matt? What's the next level?
Doing this.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's only
You're
upwards.
welcome.
It's only upwards.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I'm actually working on right now for Liberty Mutual.
Yeah.
So right now
Are you allowed to tell this?
Oh, it's not under NDA that I know of,
Okay.
unless somebody
Don't
runs
tell
in and stops
anybody.
me. But no. So right now I'm working on the Center for Enablement for the API strategy for Liberty Mutual.
Okay.
So a lot of the stuff you heard Werner talking about how we want to expose digital capabilities, build digital products, and be able to actually transform how we run as a business. So I've pivoted slightly away from specifically talking about just serverless, and now I'm talking about serverless digital products and how we can transform the insurance industry.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the keynote today, you had this example of where you set up a new API in, was it 4 days or something like that, or even quicker?
Yeah. So it's a real example where we had a team and they flew out to Australia because there was a new product we wanted to launch.
Is that what took the longer time? Was the flight?
Yeah, it was the flight.
Yeah.
And they were able to just use our accelerator. And they went out and did this discovery and framing process with our business partners. And from that, they were able to write the job stories and then just use the accelerator, get it out there, fully working product, 3 days.
Amazing. Love the power of that. And I love anyone who knows me in the Serverless office hours. I talk about the well architected a lot, and I've done a whole blog series on literally everything I could think of about explaining the well architected. And that actually came from inspiration from Liberty Mutual and yourselves, because I love how you've, in a way, productized well architected from the very beginning of building your applications. That it's not like a security thing or something at the very end where you go, well, let's do the review, but you're building in that compliance and that best practices from the very beginning.
Yeah.
How did that sort of start? Or
Yeah, so I've worked at Liberty for 10 years or 12 years, depending on how you count it, because I did my placement. But one thing that we always thought was key for this was if we want to bring industry best practices from outside and in from Liberty, that way we can extend it rather than thinking about let's build a new framework internally and try and push it out. Because whenever you try and build something internally, you get 6 or 7 or 8 different versions of that same framework, and it becomes, you know what I mean? You lose what you were trying to do in the first place. So if we look at shifting left and we look at bringing outside in, it became a case of how do we get developers to care about well architected, and that was pairing it with constructs and CDK. So that was where, like, originally I was talking to Ader Lessa because he did the serverless lens back in the day. It feels like so long ago, and it was only like 18 months ago or something.
It feels, yeah.
And so I looked at that and that was amazing. But it was a case of saying, how can we pair this with working code so that we can teach developers as they're building stuff instead of it just being theory at the end? And that's why it's patterns in the accelerator, and it's working through workshops to be able to go, we're going to build a product and we're going to teach you the lessons through working patterns.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's a compliance piece built in from the beginning. So it's best practices, literally from not even the first line of code, but designing the application.
So I have a question for you. And this is something clients ask us a lot, developers ask us a lot. How did you get buy-in from C-level on this?
So the thing is, I don't know whether you like me saying this, but all the clouds have a version of the well-architected framework, and they're all broadly similar.
We do understand there are other clouds.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So from a C-suite perspective, if you explain that you want to build well-architected applications and you're going to base them on industry best practice, the buy-in is what are the benefits going to be? Well, our applications are going to be more secure. We're going to ship them faster.
Okay.
We're going to improve developer relations between delivery teams and central teams. We're going to bring compliance and auditing down to shift left towards developers. And it's just going to improve productivity and happiness in the company.
So I can see C-suites will be going, yeah, we wouldn't be interested in any of that.
Yeah. No, thanks.
Yeah, no.
Well, that's the battle I think a lot of folks, developers have had is how do I, how do we get serverless? How do we get people to adopt serverless because it is a mind shift, and I know that you weren't always serverless, obviously. How old's the company?
Yeah, so Liberty's 109 years old.
Well, serverless has been around for 108. So, yeah.
Yeah, so we 5,000 employees just in our technology space. So we have pretty much every tech that's on the go, and we've put it in production, and we've probably still got it in production. But when it comes to serverless, I try not to focus on the term now, which is why even though my keynote was about serverless first, well architected,
right,
I talk about rapid delivery of business value in a well architected way. And that way, if you have a Kubernetes cluster that you can use to deploy your application in like a day, and it meets the same requirements as serverless, amazing. I want to know about it. That's the attitude I'm taking. It's we're going to bring it back to metrics, bring it back to business value,
sure.
And then the underlying tech doesn't really matter because the customers are happy.
Right tool for the right job.
Yeah,
it really comes down. You'd be impressed. Earlier, I used rapid and impact.
There we go.
That's right. So you taught me that last night, and yes, rapid and impact.
From what you said, actually, we interviewed David Richardson, the VP of Serverless, and I asked him sort of like that kind of question of serverless as a term has got hang-ups for certain kind of people because they think it's a buzzword and they think it's marketing and they think it's a crazy kind of term. So yeah, I like you've got other terms to explain what you're actually trying to do rather than something that people sometimes get annoyed with the term of serverless, which is understandable.
Yeah, because if there's stuff that people have prior experiences and prior conversations. So I always find if you can go into a conversation, especially with like C-suite, and you're introducing the topic and you're bringing through the flow, then you've got a much better opportunity of adoption rather than something it's got all the hype around it that they've maybe heard correct or incorrect information. But at that point, you then need to persuade that, so that's why I always focus on the customer.
What advice would you give to other enterprises? Because we talk to a lot of kind of companies and yeah, people are doing lots of kind of things. 109-year-old company. What's so amazing about Liberty IT that you've been able to take this really transformational step and be actually a global leader in terms of serverless? I mean, what's special about Liberty IT other than you being there that made that happen?
Yeah, so Liberty's also interesting because we're a mutual insurance company. And I don't know how many mutual insurance companies there are, but basically it means that our entire reason to exist is for our policyholders. We don't have like stocks and shares and all that kind of scenario. We literally exist to help people in their time of need. So Liberty's transition to serverless came about at a time whenever the world has been changing at a rapid pace. So we've been needing to deploy new serverless products because InsurTech was a boom. I don't know, was that about 5 years ago? Everyone was talking about InsurTech. And so we needed to be able to compete in that market. And that's where, Liberty has always been amazing at focusing on what are the right platforms, what are the right ways we can empower and enable our developers and give them the right autonomy to go out and solve problems. And I think that's why Liberty's lasted 109 years, because they've focused on the customer and they've looked at their employees and said, how can we give them everything they need to help our customers?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And there was also a great story that Liberty had during the pandemic, because obviously some parts of your business are going to need rapid scale up to take on new workloads, and some other parts of your business are going to have rapid scale down to good parts of your business. And there was a good serverless story that Liberty had about how that worked.
Yeah, so that was on whenever the first pandemic hit. Basically, we gave refunds to customers for their insurance because everybody was locked down in their house, so you didn't need insurance for things that you weren't using. So our refunds usage went through the roof, and our claims usage, which never goes down historically, went through the floor. So you saw the two serverless systems scale up and scale down, and they were able to meet the business need, and it just wasn't dramatic. There wasn't a P1 phone call that we had to talk about that we need to give all these, refunds. It's just a case of, okay, we know the limits, the system will scale.
Yeah, I love that story because it was just so real life, in trying times for a lot of people, and to see how serverless could help.
All right. So Matt, let me ask you, when you deal, I know you've consulted, you've done building things like that. How do you work with serverless adoption? How do you, when you get pushback, or how do you introduce serverless?
I think it always helps to start with the needs, like the use case that needs to be solved.
Yep.
And then see, do we really need to go into infrastructure details? Do we really need to set up instances or set up clusters and deal with that? Is that really something that adds value to the company or to the project?
Right.
If it doesn't, if we can go faster, more secure, more easier for the whole development teams, I think it's sometimes it's an easy sell.
Yeah.
You get the value more easily if you look at the needs and the use case.
Right. So you talk about matching. I mean, again, right tool for right job, and prototype the examples.
Yeah. Being able to prototype really quickly, having pay-as-you-go pricing, it really helps as well. You build, you show that it works, you show the value,
right.
And it's much more than just telling and promising over long-term results.
I think it's fun to see how fast you can turn that around as well. And obviously, good developer, but it's always interesting to go, yeah, I can have that for you. Give me a little bit. Bring up an app, show some things, and you're able to prototype that very quickly. That's one of the advantages of serverless.
Yeah, and that rapid experimentation, even if you're using the serverless framework or those kind of things, to be able to spin up multiple environments and run experiments, developers can play with this ridiculously massive parallel supercomputer in the cloud, for 5 minutes and try an idea out, stick it on a web page. Some business intelligence person or product manager will look at it and go, I don't like that. Oh, we'll try something else. Another hour later, there can be a whole different way of doing things, and it's just there. Yeah.
Usually, it's like I always say, give it a try. Try something really small, a small API endpoint, something you can play with it in 5 minutes, and you immediately see the value. Easy to deploy. It doesn't cost anything, and you can, developers get adoption much easier when you try that out. So I encourage anyone that hasn't used serverless yet to just give it a try. It's really well worth it.
I think the interesting thing is when you show them, here's that simple API, hello world, we all do that, or the image process or whatever, and then you explain or demonstrate, and now I'm going to scale that beyond anything your system's probably handling at the moment. Boom, same at 100, at 1,000, whatever. So that explaining that scalability comes in, because a lot of times when we show a quick thing, it's like, oh, it's kind of a toy. It's not. It's the beginnings of a very scalable application.
Yeah, I used to do trainings where we would deploy, simple endpoints, and then the next step was, let's send thousands and thousands of requests, and everybody was kind of panicked, like, what will happen? And just try, and you see the results, and it's
see the light go on.
Exactly.
That's very cool.
Yeah, well, there was the example in Werner's keynote this morning when he was showing the Amazon Game Studios game, and they were using a whole bunch of services with a Lambda and API gateway also in the back end. It was 150 million Lambda invocations a minute. And I was like, well, I tweeted out as well.
Crazy.
I think Lambda's going to scale for you.
Yeah. If you have any questions about that, exactly. All right, Matt. Coulter, we've hit the time in our show here. We're going to switch things up a little bit. Now, as an explanation, you've been doing CDK for a long time, right? I've been doing SAM for a long time, okay? We've had some conversations and things like that. But you have done a ton for CDK, and I'm actually going to ask, and Matthew, we're going to thank you for joining us, and we're going to actually swap some people out here. Let's grab Matt Bonig and Thorsten, if you guys can come on. And thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
You bet. All right, so one of you can sit down.
So we've got one Matt going out and one Matt coming in.
Yeah, we're switching Matt.
You need at least 2 mats at all times.
Always 2 Matts to balance. That's right. All right, so for CDK, you guys have a thing, and there's.
Let's introduce you. I'm Matt Bonig.
Let's introduce.
Yes, Matthew Bonig, DevTools hero and co-author of the CDK book.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming.
And my name is Thorsten Höger. I'm also DevTools hero and also co-author of the CDK book.
All right,
Fantastic.
It's out there. We just announced it. And Matt.
Yeah, I'm the disappointment of the group who forgot to change T-shirts before coming on this live screen. But I'm Matt Coulter, AWS DevTools hero, and I'm a co-author of the CDK book.
And then we have one other author who's not on the stream, please.
Yeah, so we have Satya Bhatt, who is he not in the live stream
no,
now?
we didn't get a link for him. That was
Oh, okay. So yeah, there's 4 authors.
Yeah. And please extend my apologies. We've had a whirlwind morning. So, all right. So tell
CDK
us.
book is literally announced today. It's coming out now. Is this live-ish?
Yeah, do it.
We just officially launched it as we were walking up, so it is available now immediately for.
I have to push the button.
Oh,
Did we call you out a little early?
right after the
10
stream,
minutes.
it'll be available.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So tell us, how did the CDK book come about?
So yeah, so I will push the button the moment I leave the stage, so it will be there for everybody. About the story, I think we all individually got approached by people if we want to write a book, and we said, no, we can't do it on our own. And then, as we are all part of the Heroes program, we chatted about it, as we chat about everything. And then it was like, yeah, but maybe we can do it together. And yeah, was it. Then it was done. So we did it.
I'm super excited about this, to be honest. I know we give it a lot of hassle, SAM, CDK, but we've agreed they work together or pick a framework like we talked about. I love CDK. I love them both. And you guys I've seen all of you speak on CDK. I've seen all of you do this, and I'm excited to learn from giants in this. So Matt, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, thank you. Yes, we actually have a section of the book, I believe you wrote it, about covering SAM and the CDK together.
Yeah.
So they play well together. They are not angry animals at all.
Okay. All right. Very good to hear.
What's in the book? Why would people want to pick up the book? We'll get to how they can get it, but yeah, what's in the book that's people are going to enjoy?
So we mostly tried to cover the best patterns and practices of the CDK. We did not dive into any particular construct or how to use this construct or that construct. It was more from a higher level. Here are the things that you want to do. Here are the ways to get it done, and here are the things that you maybe want to stay away from. So there are big chapters like Matt wrote on the Enterprise Construct Library. It just talks about the pipelines, a very powerful tool to let you really build your CDK code quickly and have it deployed quickly. And then a big testing chapter that talks about something that's very unique to the CDK, which is its ability to be both unit tested and be able to work integration testing into it easily.
Okay, that's actually super useful. So yeah, how does that testing work? Because sometimes with frameworks and testing's not necessarily that easy with doing frameworks and things like that. So yes, how does the testing work with the CDK?
So there are different levels of maturity that you can go through. Most will start with just basic unit testing, and the CDK is a simple enough API in terms of general concept that testing is actually one of the easiest things you'll ever test. Most of the time you can get away with some basic snapshot testing where you say, here is the stack that I expect to be created each time, and just double check that every time I run my test to make sure nothing drastically changed. That's the simplest way. Those can be done in 5-10 seconds to write those tests. As you progress, you can get all the way into a full-on integration end-to-end testing, and we cover different patterns for doing that in the book.
Okay, and that's all explained in the book, literally how to do it. I presume they're different language examples.
Yes, that's the other part. We're able to leverage the same underlying projects that the CDK uses to be multi-language to make our book multi-language. So when you go and purchase a copy, you'll get to choose between either a TypeScript version where all the examples are written in TypeScript, Python, C#, or Java. And when the JSII supports Go as a translation language in the future, and that comes out of preview and into GA, we also hope to make immediately available to everybody a Go version of the book.
Yeah, and to clarify this, you don't choose which one you want to buy. So you buy it and you get all 4 copies.
Oh, nice.
So you haven't written one book with
Yes.
different code sort of examples. You've actually written the same book 4 times with the code examples in 4 different languages. That's got to be a lot of work.
Well, thankfully, we wrote the book one time, and we let software do all the hard work.
Fantastic! I love the automation. So yeah, where can people get the CDK book once the button is
Yeah,
pushed?
I'm gonna interrupt for a second.
Please do.
Okay, going out to the stream. Satya, we have you here.
Satya.
Us? Hey,
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hey.
Joining us.
So, Satya's on here. No, we're not going to hear you, unfortunately, but they're going to hear us. Or hey, Jenny, can we unmute my mic or my Mac? We'll see if we can hear you, but we wanted to at least show you and include you and say hi to you.
Thank you so much.
The stream will hear you though. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
great.
So
Yeah, I think that
tell
you
them who
can
you
hear
are
me.
for a second.
So I'm Satya. I'm a community hero, and I'm currently based in Bucharest, in Romania.
All right, I'm reading his lips, and I don't know what he's saying. So, but Satya is awesome. He's obviously a full partner here in this, and my bad for not getting you a link earlier. This may surprise you. reInvent gets a little crazy. But I'm glad to have you on screen with us here. Thank you so much.
Thank you
All
for
right.
having
So,
me, Ed.
anything
Yeah.
else you want to say about the book, other than how? And I'm going to put a link in. How do people get a hold of this?
So you can go to thecdkbook.com, and that'll take you to the website in which you can purchase a copy of the book.
Do I have that right?
That is correct. Thecdkbook.com, just like the shirts say. I do want to say thank you to everybody within both the Heroes community and the AWS community at large. We've had incredible level of support from everybody on this book. We wrote it for the people who are using the CDK, and they've all been very excited to read it. I hope everybody loves it. We always want to hear your feedback. We are going to treat this like software, and we are going to continue to do updates of this book as it goes on. We will make sure that everything is always clear and concise. So if there is anything about the book as you're reading through it, please hit us up on Twitter at thecdkbook.com, or excuse me, the CDK book, or hit us up individually on Twitter. You'll probably find us pretty easy.
Excellent. I just wanted to ask, any of you can answer this morning in Vinder's keynote. There was also talk of the CDK version 2. Can you tell us just some about what's in version 2? How do things change?
Okay, I'll take it. I'm just trying to share the spotlight, but okay. So yeah, CDK 2 is actually a really big deal. So it is. It's been a long time coming because it's a fundamental refactoring of the way CDK has been packaged, and it actually stabilizes a large part of it. So a lot of the core constructs are now packaged together in the core CDK package, so you don't have to install them separately. And this caused a lot of problems in the community in the past because you could get a bunch of different versions of all these different constructs, and it could cause you problems, and that just goes away. So CDK 2 should hopefully make a lot of the problems that have appeared in the past just things off the past now.
Okay. Anything else there? I think there were some other things that were different, or was I not remembering? Which is entirely possible. There's one or two things.
It's mainly these things. What's important is that all the things that were deprecated in version 1 but still there are now removed. So it's way easier to start new projects because you don't need to enable all the new features that couldn't be enabled by default because of not breaking changes. So now all new things happen. So if you migrate from one of the latest versions like the 100, 120, 130, it's not a big change. If you migrate from a 20 or 30 or 40 version, there's a little bit more to do, but it's fine. And to make this clear once more, CDK v2 is generally available right now. It's not in preview. It's already GA right now. You can use it starting now.
All right.
Yeah.
I will check it out. I'm doing Python now.
You're doing
Pretty proud of
Python?
that. Don't roll your eyes at me, Matthew Bonnick. you ever like what I do? I know that. Matt's one of my best friends. It's just hard to tell.
And just for the record, this is the guy that actually originally introduced me to the CDK.
That's right.
And the first time I looked at it, I thought, why would I want that?
That's absolutely true.
And then,
most people don't know that.
And then I converted after a few months of seeing all the power of it. So I have this gentleman to thank for being here right now.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You know, I remember I was at our partner Rackspace, and they announced it, and I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. I really love that code. I just wasn't a strong enough developer to use it. That's just the truth. He was. And so I was like, Matt, you got to check this out. And I remember you same thing. Rolled your eyes.
I liked Terraform at the time.
I know you did.
But then I ran up against those edges of Terraform.
Good, yeah. So, all right. With that, we are about to sign off here, guys. One more time, thecdkbook.com.
Yes.
I've tweeted it out. I've put it in the stream. In about 15 minutes, you and I are going to have it out.
Yep, it's the otter versus the squirrel.
The otter versus the squirrel. If you're not familiar with this, Matt and I are going to put on ridiculous costumes, which he's going to be the otter, which is the CDK pancakes. Do you say stacks or pancakes?
You know, his name is Pancakes, but his friends call him Stacks.
Call him Stacks, that's right. I'll be wearing Sam the squirrel, and you're going to see two old guys do Dance Dance Revolution. It's going to be an embarrassment. We will be streaming to this same channel as a live stream, so watch youtube.com/serverless. I have no idea why I'm yelling, but I am. So it's youtube.com/serverless. We'll be streaming there. Satya, thank you. You're gracious. I'm so sorry that I didn't get you the link earlier. That one's completely on me. Matt asked me to do it. So we'll blame Julian for that, as you understand. So
I got big shoulders.
With that, we'll see you all in about 13 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Good stuff,
Keep it
Matt.
a wave.